What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 188 this week. It is another lovely Sunday. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, and we've got some fun topics to talk about today, guys. Got Mr. Head Bob going over there on my right, Mr. Tie Guy Travis himself. What is happening, my friend?
McClunkey, and good morning, everyone. Glad to be here.
You ever, I know we've talked about this before. You ever going to explain that to our audience, or are you just going to kind of let it go?
And I have not explained McClunkey yet. I could. I mean, I could at any time if you guys want.
You're taking like the Dark Souls route. It's cryptic. You could kind of figure it out if you piece things together. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, it's environmental storytelling. Anything I'm trying.
Well, it's on your Twitter thing, right? Yeah, it's on yours.
Yeah. I've explained it on other shows. It's just this one I haven't had a good time because you guys always bring it up like in pockets right now before we've introduced Dan, and I'm like, I don't know if I should talk about it before we introduce Dan. So,
and of course, my partner in crime, Mr. Dan Rodriguez, coming to you this week as Elden Ring. Good morning.
That's right, baby. Hey, what's up? I want to hear about it. Like, my introduction means nothing compared to McClunkey. So, I mean,
it is, as somebody in the comments said, it is a Star Wars reference.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, George Lucas is sort of obsessed with changing the original Star Wars trilogy. He's done it a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. And in 2019, I think it was that late, after he was already done not owning Star Wars, we all found out because Disney Plus re-released the original Star Wars trilogy for the first time since they bought Star Wars. It was the first time that they had done anything with the original trilogy. Right. And when they put it out on Disney Plus, everybody learned that there was new stuff added to the original trilogy again in 2019. And when fans asked about it, Disney said, we didn't do that. George Lucas did it before he sold it to us. And everybody was like, what? Again? Like, this is crazy. And one of the things he changed was in the original Star Wars movie where Han Solo and Greedo do that, shootout in the cantina. He has changed that a bunch of times. Basically, the original was Greedo's kind of step into Han, and then Han just shoots him dead. And then they added Han in the special editions. They added Han dodging and then dodging a bullet from Greedo and then shooting back in order to make it more of a kid's film. So Han just isn't committing murder. And in this one, they add a close up of Greedo's face, and he says, without any subtitles, McClunkey. And then it goes back to the original shot, and then Han dodges and then shoots back. And there was no explanation for why this was added, but Star Wars fans, as they do, researched it and found out that McClunkey is Huttese for "this will be the end for you," and it's basically yet another way for Greedo to be like, "Yo, I'm now threatening you verbally and shooting at you." So Han definitely isn't the bad guy, guys. He's not just committing cold-blooded murder, and it completely ruins Han's whole arc where he's like heartless and then discovers that he's got a heart of gold throughout it because now he was only acting in self-defense. And it was absolutely terrible. And the day that happened, I was on an episode of Fireteam Chat, and everyone on that show had a catchphrase except for me. And so I just shouted McClunkey, and nobody on the panel was expecting it, and they all just started cracking up. And so I just started saying it during shows. And now if you Google McClunkey, the first thing you see is how that's weird that George Lucas added it, and then it's just me after that. Like, it's just all like stuff about me. So it's my catchphrase. I shout McClunkey. That's what I do. So
that is that's bizarre. I actually hadn't heard. I don't follow Star Wars too closely. I hadn't heard that it was changed again.
Yeah, dude.
Special editions what were they? Late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, it was late 90s, and the reason that those changes happened originally was because George Lucas's ex-wife edited the original Star Wars, a lot of the original Star Wars movies, and so George Lucas re-edited them in order so he doesn't have to pay her royalties and stuff like that. It was like sort of like a petty like ex-wife move to like, oh, I'll re-edit them that way you don't have to get anything from it, which is brutal. So. And he's just been changing it ever since. Just keeps updating stuff. It's bizarre. Even when he didn't own it, he got another update in. It's crazy. So
Well, I don't want to turn this into the Star Wars cast, but I think when you and Hogue sit down to have your Star Wars debate that we joked about last week, I
Yeah.
would love to hear your thoughts on that point about Lucas. Is he okay changing things? I know a lot of Star Wars fans hate it, right? Because of the kind of how precious, if you will, the original Star Wars trilogy is, but he created it. So I love hearing where people stand.
Did create it, but also kind of ruined a lot of it, which is crazy. And the part that offends me is that you can't watch the originals at all. Like there's no way to do it. And apparently, according to a lot of people at Disney and like J.J. Abrams tried to get the original versions released, apparently they've been destroyed, which is crazy. Like it's like a part of film that's just gone. The original versions of the movie. It's just been it's poor Star Wars fans have really had a rough go of it. He does weird things, Ains. Like this is again another tangent, but one time he was at Star Wars Celebration and he was doing an interview with Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart asked him what Obi-Wan Kenobi's home planet was. And just because he was tired of hearing that question, he just said like on the spot, "Oh, it's the Stew John systems. That's where Obi-Wan's from." And then it immediately became canon. There was like Wikipedia pages about it and shit. And I was just like, dude, this guy has too much power. This is insane. Like he can just say something as like a joke and then it's just the truth now. And so I feel like him getting killed off as the arbiter of Halo, because I said arbiter, the arbiter of Star Wars was like the best thing that could happen. So anyway, tangent over, but I'm glad that he's no longer in charge of Star Wars.
That is bizarre.
That's really weird.
Well, at least we know where McClunkey comes from now. So
there you go, McClunkey.
Yeah. A year later, if you joined in the show, I now know what you say. That's good. All right. Good morning, everyone in chat. Good to see you guys. Some new faces as well rejoining us, which is awesome. And by the way, Nick said George Lucas's ex-wife created Jar Jar Binks too. Kidding, of course, but yes, not surprising. We've already got a couple super chats out of the gate here. Dan, let's hit these up.
Yeah. All right, Game Positive with the $6.99 Canadian super chat. Thank you, Game Positive. Good afternoon, you beautiful bastards. Tuning in mid-shoveling from my 40-yard gravel driveway, the Dark Souls of driveways. Praise the sun.
He's that is Eric from Season Gaming. He's in Halifax, and he sent a couple pictures to us in our SG chat last night where like I think he took a step and like fell into snow up to his waist. Awesome. So he's been shoveling for like a full day now. They got hit hard. So any of you in the Northeast, Godspeed.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck, Eric. Thank you.
It's 50 degrees in Kansas. I mean,
it's 50 degrees in Kansas. I don't know what's going
crazy.
on. And then Fat Boy Horror in the house.
Yeah. 5 pounds super chat. No, and chuffing no. I don't know what that is.
I think this is a reference to George Lucas.
He's a fellow Star Wars fan, so I assume that's in response to the Star Wars talk.
Thank you, brother. Always appreciate the super chats. All right, guys. So I have an on-the-spot question for you guys today. We don't have a guest today, so we've kind of been doing, some kind of put the guests on the spot. But today I just wanted to throw one at you guys. Nothing crazy, but just for the audience to kind of get to know us better as we talk about games every week. Let me ask you guys what you think. Or not best. What is your favorite RPG of all time?
Ooh,
man,
that's a hard question.
There's
so many RPGs
for a reason.
I'm wondering, like, do you go like JRPG where it's like turn-based, more traditional? Do you go Western RPG?
Any RPG.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with New Vegas.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think that one, because it felt like more so than a lot of other RPGs, like that you weren't kind of, contained into, you really had to pay attention to how you build your character, and it made a difference, between in conversations, even just the minor conversations, if you didn't have a certain level in speech or whatever, it was one of the first ones, I guess, that I played that, I felt more like my character. Can you play something like Mass Effect or something, and you're Commander Shepard? No matter how you slice it, you're still going to be him. You're still going to go. Your journey is going to be probably the same as the guy next to you. This one, while there's an end game, there's several different endings, but the journey in between there was very unique to me, I feel, and maybe not, just me, but it all depended. You could go so many different ways, and I really like the setting. I think the story was well written. At the time, it was amazing. So,
which game is this? Sorry, I feel like I missed the
New
title.
Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas. That's a great game.
Yeah, and it's I think my favorite Fallout game for sure. There's a lot
Definitely
of
the best
other
written
RPGs.
one.
Yeah, I mean it was just
too.
really good. Yeah,
Obsidian,
it's insane.
Little.
They are.
Sorry, Dan.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, great pick. Little known fact: they had a collector's edition for Fallout New Vegas, which I have. It's rare, it's worth money, and it actually came with 7 real poker chips from the places in the casinos in the game that I actually
have that.
I have those chips in a glass case.
I have them too.
All of my other real poker chips from casinos around the world, which is kind of funny.
That's nice.
Because
you're a gambler, as I learned recently, a poker player.
Yeah, used to be. Yeah, man. So I think before we get to your answer, Travis, I was kind of having a little fun with this because I figure, especially when we don't have a guest, we can kind of include our live audience more too. So we got a lot of answers in chat, which I'll get to. But Travis, let's hear yours.
Yeah, this answer was the immediate one that popped in my head when you asked me, and then I saw people talking about it in the chat as well. But I think I have to go with Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Okay.
For me, I didn't really like a lot of JRPGs as a kid. I like turn-based games, but a lot of JRPGs didn't click with me when I was younger. And Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind was like my gateway drug Western RPG that sort of allowed me to get more into RPGs in general and eventually play a ton of JRPGs. But I think because Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind stood out to me as like the first RPG I really fell in love with and just couldn't stop playing, and kind of became like an RPG lifer based off of that. I have to go with it. It's incredibly obtuse. It's like impossible to play that game these days. Even if you download like graphic improvements, you're still in for a hell of a ride. But the world that it creates, the super weird, not at all knights and dragons fantasy world, the insane things you can pull off in that game, and the quest lines that don't hold your hand at all. Beating the main story in that game is insanely challenging. Like you have to figure out how to do everything on your own. And just everything about it is so good. And if you like Oblivion and Skyrim, like you owe a lot to Morrowind, even if you've never played it, because that game did so much to set up the universe and to kind of develop the Elder Scrolls series from what it was with Arena and Daggerfall, a very different game. I just that game to me will always have such a special place in my heart. I've probably played thousands of hours of that game. Like I played that on the original Xbox, and I probably had to buy like 8 copies because the original Xbox was so unreliable, and things were always breaking all the time. I probably went through like 3 Xboxes and 8 copies of that game just to, and had to restart my save file over all the time and stuff like that. And I didn't care. I still was all about that.
That's when you know the game is good, right? Like you start a brand new one, and Morrowind it's probably number 2 for me too. It's nice. So good. It's
such a good game.
I think that's one of the first games you and I bonded over, Travis, talking about.
It was, yeah. I mentioned it as like I usually like the older games in series, which is why it's weird I don't like Mass Effect 1 over 2. But then I mentioned Morrowind, and you were like, I like Morrowind, and we were like, yeah, that game's awesome, man.
Legendary.
Like, the fact that you can make a spell that increases your jump stat by like 5,000%, and then just jump across the entire map, even though it kills you because there's no way to avoid the fall damage at the end. So funny. Just the stupid stuff you can do in that game.
Yeah, it was definitely Oblivion, they took it a different direction, and Skyrim even more so. And for all its greatness in Skyrim and Oblivion, Morrowind is special because they generally speaking, don't make Western RPGs like that anymore, where there's just, it's like you said, it's obtuse, and yet you have almost complete freedom, where you can just do all kinds of wild stuff in that game. So that's a great pick for sure. We've got a lot of comments here. So someone, Walt said Final Fantasy VI, legendary. I think that's got to be up there. The Fat Boy Horror, I know, and I have bonded over this, is Phantasy Star 1. Legendary for me as well. Funny enough, Eric says Morrowind as well. We've got some Mass Effect 2s in the house. Final Fantasy 10 and Dragon Quest 8. Ooh, okay. Some specific JRPGs from Alex. another Morrowind, a couple Skyrims, Mass Effect. Joe, we don't need you to say Mass Effect 2 with 3 different comments, okay? We got
Is
Skyrim.
that Bad Bit Joe or a different
That is
Joe?
Bad Bit, yes, that is. And we've got some Mass Effect, or excuse me, Skyrim as well. Of course, I think a lot of people nowadays, Skyrim is up there for them. But yep. By the way,
Stands
we've
on the
got
shoulders of giants. Is all I have to say about that one.
That's true. That's true. Cerebral Paul in the house. I'm going to grab this one, Dan. $2 super chat. Thank you, Paul. He said, "Happy Sunday." Dan is right for once. You got one, Dan.
It's a good pick.
take
New
it.
Vegas is really, really damn good. Really, really damn
22.
good.
Okay, we're good. I'm just taking the date down.
Yeah. I'm
right.
excited for more Obsidian RPGs because I feel like
Gosh,
they
you
have
and me
been
both.
living without a real budget for like over a decade, and it'll be really
It's
nice to
so
see
exciting.
them. Yeah,
I think they're like my most the studios that Xbox has and that what they're working on. They're probably my most excited that I'm for.
yeah. I mean, if
I
you
can't
look at the
speak.
two
You know what I'm saying.
projects,
Yeah.
the two projects that they're working on, Avowed and Outer Worlds 2, those are both completely different games and both look so amazing. If Outer Worlds 1 had the budget that I think Outer Worlds 2 is going to have, oh my god, dude, I just can't wait.
I think with those Western RPGs, those older ones, you know, it shows that you can tell a story without being, you know, strapped into, you know, a very linear experience, you know, and that's kind of my whole thing. And I'd love to see more games go that route. There are a lot of RPGs out there, like especially some of the JRPGs. And you look at Final Fantasy Remake; it's really, really well done. But you know what's going to happen. You know, this is we're all playing the same thing. You know, and games like Morrowind and New Vegas, they just opened it up so much, I think, to, you know, the journey more than the destination. So, you know, that sounds cliche, but it's 100% true. You know, Skyrim to a point did that, but it was just so much, right? There was just, I mean, it got to the point where it's just like, man, this is insane. And I went back to try to play it. And then when they updated it, you know, a month ago or 2 months ago, whatever it was, so much. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. You know, you almost have to bite off a certain amount and just see what you can do with that. And then, but man, it's I miss those games. Like the first experience through them, especially. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about them. By the way, Walt just said Knights of the Old Republic.
That's my number 2.
Yeah, that's way
You're up there too.
And we're going to be talking about some Star Wars upcoming games here shortly. But one more point on this. One of the conversations I've had with people, because my pick, by the way, if I take nostalgia out, Phantasy Star is mine purely from a nostalgia perspective. But if I take nostalgia away and just purely what I think is my favorite RPG, it's got to be Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's really good.
But I think the conversation I've had with people about Skyrim versus Witcher 3, they're both incredible games. But as you were saying, Dan, you kind of create your own journey in those games like New Vegas and Morrowind and stuff. Whereas Witcher is kind of a different take because you're a set character. You're Geralt, right? And you build relationships. And depending on what you do in the game, different things can happen, which I think is really well done. One of the best parts of that game. But the overall story is the same. And I think that's one of those weird debates I always have. It's like I personally think Witcher 3 is better than Skyrim, partially because of the character intricacies that you get. Like in Skyrim, you're kind of a no-name character, which is good in some ways because you create your own journey. But the storytelling, in my opinion, in Witcher 3 is so much better with the character actions and stuff.
Yeah, the writing in Bethesda games is like not very good. I mean, none of their RPGs are like particularly well known for the story, whether it's Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 or Skyrim or even Oblivion.
It's your experience.
None of those games are really known for.
Yeah, very true.
Man.
All right. Well, that's cool. That was a quick on the spot question.
What is a role playing game, by the way? I'm still so confused by that term. Like, I used to think it meant you get to play different roles, like you can be a wizard or a knight or whatever, but it sort of doesn't mean that anymore because Geralt, you're always a witcher. So I'm just very confused at what makes it an RPG. It's like one of those things, like I can't describe it, but I know it when I see it. You know,
like,
it's you always know what an RPG is, but.
It's so broad nowadays. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a definition? Have you ever heard a definition that made sense to you?
No, not that covered all the games that I would consider an RPG.
Yeah.
which is weird. Sense. Like you said, it's a know it when you see it type of thing. So, all right, guys, we're going to get into, let's talk about what we're currently playing, and then we're going to be having a good conversation on Elden Ring today. We got Star Wars titles. We've got a new Halo Infinite mode that's coming, some Xbox updates, a Blizzard new IP, so kind of some big stories this week. But first, let's talk about what we're currently playing. Travis, I'm going to start with you because I know you were reviewing Dying Light 2, which you touched on last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add anything there, and I know that you're the only one of the three of us actually playing Pokemon. And even though we don't talk about, we certainly don't cover Pokemon much, regardless of what we think, it is a massive, massive game right now across the gaming industry that millions and millions of people are loving. So if you want to touch on those, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll start with Dying Light 2 because that's sort of farther away in my mind now. I beat it last week after about 80 hours and have been writing and finessing my review since, and I'm pretty much done writing now. I'm just going to do the video and stuff over the weekend and get that. The embargo is February 2nd at 7 a.m. So I'm well ahead of embargo here, which is rare, especially for a game this big. I got through it pretty quickly. But yeah, my impressions that I can talk about without saying, my final impressions are that it's a very solid game. Definitely worth your time. If you have an aversion to bugs and glitches, maybe wait a little bit. I think this is going to be one of those that needs to be ironed out. The game sort of becomes more buggy the longer you play, is what I found out. It's kind of like those old cartoons where the car's driving and pieces fall off, and then by the time he crosses the finish line, it's like just the steering wheel. It kind of Dying Light 2 kind of reminds me of that, at least in the state that I played it. And they're coming out with patches all the time, but I have to think that it's going to take more than a little while to iron out everything that I experienced. And I did a co-op session with the creative director of the game, and I have another co-op session on Monday with the same guy. And on our first one, the reason we have a second one is because the first one we couldn't get anything to work. Like everything was breaking in our co-op session, just constantly. The boss despawned, the challenge broke, like all this stuff was just like falling apart. And he was like, "I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry, guys." And I was just like, "Yeah, I mean, it happens. It's a crazy game to try to play 4 players in." But yeah, we have a makeup session on Monday just to play more and see if I can get like a co-op session to really work. But yeah, it's going to be rough out there for those of you who are playing it on day one. So if you get easily frustrated by something, I would say maybe don't play it. I'm playing it on Xbox and PC. I hear PlayStation's worse. We have a lot of codes at IGN, and one of the guys who is playing it on PS5, and he actually completely lost his save file after 60 hours due to a glitch. So he got locked out of his save file completely, and he's now in an infinite loading screen. So somebody asked about accessibility options. I don't know. I think there's an accessibility tab, but I didn't pay much attention to it. That's just part of my bias, so I could look into that for you. Okay. But yeah, brutal game in terms of bugs, but everything else, when it works, it's fantastic. So that's basically where I'm at with it.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I am not reviewing it. Luckily, it sounds like partially. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to playing it. I really like the first one, and I like, again, the RPG aspects of the game with weapon building and exploring and the city and all that stuff. So, and you said that those aspects of it are still excellent.
Oh, fantastic. So. It's so good. It's so much fun to play. It's really like, if the game had worked, my review would read a lot differently if it worked more consistently. But that's basically all I can get into. I obviously have other thoughts about like the story and stuff that I can't talk about because it's past their first 10 hours and the stuff I'm allowed to give impressions of. But that's that game. And then the other one's Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think it's how you pronounce it. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, which I mostly agree with. I might go a little bit lower on it. But the highlights are that it's fantastic that Pokemon is finally trying new things. It's not like the original formula with Pokemon at all. You actually walk around and see Pokemon in the wild and can choose to combat or fight them or throw a Pokeball at them, which is really cool. Not anything we've seen before in the Pokemon franchise. Okay. But it also suffers some like growing pains. The main one being that the open worlds are atrocious. Like they are just big barren empty wastelands with like nothing there and like trees where they use the same asset like a million times, and it kind of it gives me vibes of like
Breath of the Wild.
No, Breath of the Wild is much better by a lot. And I think you know that. I think you've seen screenshots of both games and realized one of those is much better. The it kind of reminds me of those like low budget pony games where you ride a pony and the world, you ever play one of those games like as a joke or because you're hilarious? But those games were like you're riding a horse and clearly the focus is on like the fantasy of riding the horse, and so the worlds are just like big open plains with like 4 trees. They're just like the most like barren low res worlds out there, just because that's not what the game's about. That's sort of what it reminds me of in the Pokemon world. I saw somebody tweet that and it was like spot on because I played those games before. I kind of have an addiction to playing really bad games. I'll wait till they're on sale for like $2 and then buy them just because I want to see what they're like. But yeah, the open world is pretty rough. I do like that the games are much harder. Like you really get destroyed by some Pokemon in this game, which I think is really cool. But anyway, yeah, my review is sort of that it's good that they're changing things. I like that it's new and different, but I think the open world they created is really not good. And granted, I'm early in the game. I haven't seen all of it, but I hear it's pretty consistent kind of feedback. And I probably would have settled maybe at a 6 or a 7, somewhere around there, just based on what I've played so far. But I think the IGN review is pretty close to my opinion, with the notable exception of that I tend to think it's a little bit more tedious than she did. She was just like, our reviewer is just happy to be in the world catching Pokemon, and I'm there and I'm like, all right, I have a quest where I've got to like catch 25 of the same Pokemon, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like this is a nightmare to me. So I was playing it last night while watching a show, and it was a lot more fun when I had a little bit of like a distraction and separation from it, playing it in the portable mode while I had something else to kind of pay attention to.
Best game I've ever played when I'm watching other entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, some games are like that, man. I also do that a lot with Destiny, and it can really improve the experience when you're grinding, when you have to just grind, and it's just like, I like this game, but I have to do a thing I'm not really looking forward to. But it's good to have those types of games.
Yeah, I know we talked last night a little bit, but it's IGN kind of came in on the low end. I think of the review scores, and because I see a lot of people on my timeline who just adored this game. So I don't know. I mean, Pokemon obviously has that nostalgia and love factor with it for a lot of people, so I'm sure that's playing into it. But no matter what, I think, or reviews, it seems a lot of people are enjoying this game, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is very good, and it's true. IGN was on the lower side. I think some of those high reviews are crazy because there's like so like there's obvious flaws. Like I saw an outlet give it a 100, which I was just like, dude, like there are some serious criticisms about this game that I think would be crazy for you to not include. But that said, at its core, like it is super fun, like just running around the world and catching Pokemon and doing battles and leveling up and all that stuff, and the weird setting because it's actually like a super prequel. So Pokeballs have like just been invented and people are still figuring out that you can catch Pokemon and stuff, and all of that's super cool. Yeah, it's like very kind of it reminds me of like Skyward Sword serving as like an origin story for Legend of Zelda. It kind of reminds me of that. So there's something to that game. I'm only like maybe 5 or 6 hours in, but there's something that's kind of biting me a little bit. Like I'm getting bit by like the addictive loop. It's more just the open worlds. I can't really forgive it. I think a 7 is as high as it goes in my book, just because of that.
Fair enough. All right, Dan, what are you up to?
I finished Tales of Arise finally.
Wow, you beat it.
80 hours.
That's a big game, dude.
It's a huge game.
80
and
hours. Wow.
Yeah, and there's end game content, like a lot of end game content. Like once you finish it, you go like several more big boss battles open up. So my problem was, I mean, I loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's probably maybe my game of the year last year if I had finished it, but it was, I over leveled. I grinded too much. And then I got to a point where I was like level 70 and all the enemies at towards the end of the game are probably closer to like 50 to like 55. So it wasn't a huge challenge. I mean, it was still fun, but the bigger bosses now that I'm kind of going up against are a lot more challenging and they take a lot longer. But it was an amazing game. There's so much to it. I mean, I could probably sit here for an hour and talk about it. I really started getting into the fishing aspect of it, which is I don't know why. It's one of those, like, fishing mechanics are hit and miss for me. Like, some of them are just so ridiculous and difficult. This one is very, very simple, but also challenging when you start going after, like the bigger fish and stuff. I don't know why. I mean, I really don't look for fishing in a game necessarily, but this one kind of got me, and I've been playing a lot of that. And then after I finished it, I kind of, I did a little bit of the end game content. You can also do a new game plus mode. I haven't delved into that yet. But then I started playing a new Horizon playthrough because I want to get refreshed, before.
You trying to play the whole game before Forbidden West?
I think I can. I think so. Maybe. I'm not super far right now, but I think I can.
Which game are you trying to beat before Forbidden West?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean, I finished it before. I just don't.
Okay.
I haven't. I've done that and the DLC. But I just wanted to do a fresh playthrough, and then I also played a little bit of the Uncharted remake, Master, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah,
it's
Thieves
it's the
Collection.
same. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit. It's 60 frames. That's nice. But it's still Uncharted 4. And the problem I had with that game, it just took so long to get into it. And I'm seeing the same kind of thing now. Like you go through the chapters so fast at the beginning where you're just like, oh, chapter 1. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're on chapter 6. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And, and then, it's all story, especially like those first 6 or 7, chapters or whatever. And it's good. It's really well done, but it's also,
Is it just the entire script of the Goonies lifted verbatim?
That might be too.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Honestly, my problem with Uncharted 4 is that Uncharted 1 through 3 are some of my favorite games, and specifically because they're so over the top and silly and unlike any other action game we have out there because of like the tone. And then in Uncharted 4, they were like, okay, The Last of Us was successful. Let's make the tone of Uncharted 4 like close as The Last of Us as we could. And so the game is like way slower, way less over the top, way more serious. And I'm just like, dude, this isn't what I liked about Uncharted. I liked about Uncharted was like the crazy, like balls to the wall, things falling apart and stuff. And it seems like in 4, they went for like realism and like, a totally like serious story. And I was like, this is not why I play these games. You guys have totally misread the situation. So
no,
4 is my least favorite one, to be honest. I think 2 is the perfect Uncharted game.
2 is the best.
Yeah, 2 is the best for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all those things. That's the problem I'm having. When I started doing that, I was just like, man, you know what? I really want to get through Horizon one more time. So I'm just going to put that on the side. I'll probably come back to it and finish it because it looks nice. But it's, I feel like I just played it.
Whatever. Also, the script is the Goonies. Not to get going too hard on Uncharted 4, but it is the Goonies. Like read that script and then play Uncharted 4. It's the same story.
4 felt bloated to me too. Whereas 1 and 3, they were like, they were those action, like you said, over the top action games. They were funny, fun to play through. 4, they tried to add this kind of broader element to it. Like you said, a little serious, a little bigger. And it just, I like the game. Like, I'm not as negative as it sounds as you on it, but I played it once and I was like, I don't really have any urge to play that again. Whereas like 2,
I just have scars, man. Every time I think of that game, I think of the Goonies ending where it was just like, spoiler alert, but like the ship inside the cove that I was just like, dude, this is straight up the Goonies. And then I think of the part where you're tying your your tow cable around trees to get your Jeep out of the mud.
Yeah,
And that's just how the game lives in my head. Is like, dude, they had me like do chores and like they just like I'm so traumatized from that game. I don't know.
Like the swimming underwater where you've got to lift that canister out in the very beginning.
Dude,
like they could have just eliminated that whole scene. Like
I'm like, how did they make exploration so boring? Like it really kills me.
I am with you on that one.
Yeah,
and Diego said something about Hitman. I play Hitman every week. I just,
of course, he does.
At this point, don't say anything.
yeah.
The new stuff is cool, but it's just I'm waiting for the when you get your own pad. That
yes,
But that hasn't come out yet, so I'm not slowing down really. I just kind of go through and play a little bit here and there, and then but that's really what is interesting me. When that comes out, I'll probably be right back into it. So. We'll what happens.
Back on Uncharted, I never finished Lost Legacy, and I know a lot of people really like that one. So
neither did I.
And I've been meaning to pick up this upgrade for that, not the Replay 4, but the Replay Lost Legacy, and actually finish it. So, I need to
better than the base game, I think, in terms of pacing.
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, a lot of people say Lost Legacy is either their favorite or up there with 2, which I think is interesting. So.
Well, let's not go crazy. It's not as good as 2, but it is much better than the base game.
All right. And how about that? Not Horizon. How about that Uncharted movie?
Jesus,
does not look good. My God,
what have they done? What have they done? What did they do to my boy?
look how they massacred my boy.
God, man, it looks
it does
bad.
not look. It does not look good. The second they announced that movie and the actor they chose, and I was just like, this isn't going to be good. And everything I've seen has confirmed that theory so far. The trailer is so bad.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all. It's a shame.
Anything with Mark Wahlberg is usually trash. I'm just going to go out there and say it. Like my family, they went out to Wahlburgers last night, and I was like, that's disgusting. I don't know why you even go over there.
The Departed.
It's not the same quality. That's about it.
Oh, that's good.
Master Chief
Yeah, like Boogie Nights.
No, he's good in that movie. No, come on, he's good in that movie. His character is one of the best characters.
He's like a smaller version of Tom Hardy, but less sexy. And I don't even know if that's I don't know how you get smaller sexy one or less sexy than Tom Hardy, but that's him.
The truth finally comes out, Travis. I knew all along Dan loved Tom Hardy.
Wow. What about Ted?
Well, yeah, but that's because of Seth MacFarlane.
No, he's good in that movie.
All he does is sit there and smoke pot.
He's good in some movies.
It's like you got my teddy bear. I don't even know what the hell. He's an idiot. He's a dumb idiot, just like Tom Hardy.
Hey, all right.
Let's not get me started. Let's talk about Elden Ring, something I also don't like. But let's go.
I can tell that Dan is aroused right now talking about Tom Hardy.
Maybe
I can just tell.
Maybe
I can tell.
All right, we definitely got off on the tangent there. Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. All right, so our main topic today is going to be on Elden Ring because there's a tremendous amount of coverage coming out for it right now. We're just over 3 weeks from launch officially, and I don't know about you guys, but this is my most anticipated game of the year. So I've kind of gone dark on the coverage. Like I'm not watching the videos of the gameplay or anything like that. But we also got this week an interview with Miyazaki from PlayStation directly, which I thought was really interesting. Because Miyazaki, if you're not familiar, of course, he is the president of From Software. He is the creative director and game director on Souls 1, Souls 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro. He is kind of the man, if you will. And he's quickly building a reputation as a household name in the gaming industry. And if Elden Ring hits like we think it's going to hit, it's going to be hard to argue that he's not one of the premier creators in the entire industry, in my opinion. So the interesting thing about this game I want to talk about a couple things is, by all accounts, after the Video Game Awards and even coming into 2022, if you looked at kind of Google Trends and what games people are searching for 2022, Elden Ring was either number one or far away number one. Which is pretty incredible when you think about the fact that these games are generally revered as this, some people call them like cult games, which they're obviously not. They're much bigger than that now, but known for being difficult, being challenging, and people, not pointing at you, Dan, but people like you who don't, and Luke in the chat has said the same thing, who don't really enjoy the difficulty or the challenge of these games, that in spite of that, this is the most kind of anticipated game of the year. And then just keep in mind, think about what's coming this year.
Starfield.
You got Starfield, you've got God of War, you got Horizon, you've got all these gigantic games, and yet
Maybe
Elden
Breath
Ring,
of the Wild 2.
maybe, yeah. And Nintendo's gone
They
quiet
say
on it,
it's supposed to come out this year. I kind of don't believe them.
but for the fact that Elden Ring is kind of trending above all of those, and just
It is.
taking
In traffic, way above those. Yeah.
and just taking all the hype is amazing. So the first thing I want to tackle though is really on the difficulty, because the thing that constantly comes up with Souls games and From games is really the difficulty. And as Travis and I have said, and many others who are really into these games have said, they're not as difficult. And that's not supposed to be some type of, hey, I'm just awesome at games. It's just a different design style. And we've talked about that a lot. And he was asked this directly by PlayStation. So I want to read his response, because his response, in my opinion, is brilliant. And he kind of eloquently said what many of us have tried to say about these games. So basically, here's word for word what they asked him and how he answered. So PlayStation asked him, how has the ongoing discourse around game difficulty and accessibility impacted the way you've tailored and maintained From Software's trademark difficulty in Elden Ring? Was that something your team has been trying to be more mindful of? So basically asking him, is he aware of this conversation, and how are you changing it? Changing the difficulty for this new game. And here's what he said. He said, yes, we have. It's a valid discussion. I feel like our approach to these games, not just Elden Ring, is to design them to encourage the player to overcome adversity. We don't try to force difficulty or make things hard for the sake of it. We want players to use their cunning, study the game, memorize what's happening, and learn from their mistakes. We don't want players to feel like the game is unfairly punishing, but rather that there's a chance to win a difficult encounter and make progress. We understand that Souls-like games are regularly associated with impossible levels of difficulty with high barriers to entry, but we try to design the games to make the cycle of repeatedly trying to overcome these challenges enjoyable in and of itself. So we hope that Elden Ring and the new options it provides will be a success in that respect. He goes on to say, in Elden Ring, we've not intentionally tried to lower the game's difficulty, but I think more players will finish it this time. As I mentioned, the player's level of freedom to progress through the world and return to a challenge are all elements that I feel will help people get through the game at a more leisurely pace. Also, there isn't a focus on pure action. The player has more agency to dictate their approach against, for example, the field bosses in the overworld, and how they utilize stealth in various situations. We've even reduced the number of hoops that you have to jump through to enjoy it with multiplayer. So we hope that players embrace that idea of receiving help from others. And overall, we feel the clear rate will go up because of these things. So that's a lot. But basically what he's saying, like I said, more eloquently than some of us have tried to say, is it's not that the games are overarchingly difficult. It's that they are very different from other modern games, and they kind of require you to repeat decisions, learn from your mistakes, try new things, learn game mechanics, and then you're rewarded for doing so. And I know we've gone back and forth on this, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And the chat, by the way, let us know what you think. But I love this answer. I love this answer, because he's basically saying, look, here's how we design the game. We feel it's a fair way to design the game. We give you all the tools at your disposal. But no, that was a long-winded way to say we're not changing the way we design our games because people think it's too difficult. And I love that.
Yeah. I think it's sort of Dark Souls, or the Souls series, or Miyazaki games in general, which he's created a lot, as you went over, Ains. Although I should mention he also created Demon Souls.
Souls as well,
yeah.
And
that's where I knew him
from decades ago too. But
yeah, Armored Core, I think he was involved with some of those. So but Demon Souls was definitely the one where I first got on, and I was like, dude, this guy's awesome. Like, he's doing stuff that nobody else is doing in the industry. I think Dark Souls is a little unfairly judged in a lot of regards when it comes to difficulty, because another game that you die a lot in is like Hades, right? And you never heard anybody talk about the accessibility or difficulty of Hades. And I think the difference between those two games is, in Hades, when you die, you're sort of rewarded a little bit more obviously. Like the game gives you story beats and some other stuff to do, and then sets you back out into the world. But dying a ton is still part of that game. Like it's still part of its design. It's just the way that I think players receive that feedback of dying is very different in the two games. In Dark Souls, it sort of has this reputation of like dying is purely bad. All it does is set you back. There's no positive to it, yada yada, which just isn't true.
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, dying in a Souls game is both part of the experience and definitely a step forward. And you also benefit in a lot of ways from dying. You get to keep all of your equipment, so any exploration you did is totally vindicated, and you don't lose anything from there. Really, the only thing you lose is XP that you can just re-earn or recover fairly easily. So I think it's really part of the culture, and specifically the players that play it, who tend to be like aggressive about it, like, oh, get good, sorry bro, you can't hang, like that whole attitude, I think probably gives them a bad rep. But I think I totally agree. Like, I don't think the games are especially difficult. I don't think that they need to be changed. I think they're perfectly tuned, and I think it really is all just about your attitude of when you die. Like, are you the type of person who gets pissed off and goes, this game isn't fun anymore because I died? Or are you the type who dies and doesn't really see that as a fail state, but just part of the process of like beating the game is just you have to die a couple times, and then eventually you learn from those mistakes and you learn the patterns of the boss or whatever, and then you overcome it. If you go in with that attitude, the game really isn't hard, and also isn't something that's particularly frustrating. So I totally like that he's sticking with to his guns there. I don't think that you need different difficulty modes in Dark Souls. I don't think that the game isn't accessible. I mean, a guy beat Dark Souls 3 with bananas. People have beaten it blindfolded. People have, like there's so many examples of people beating that game. I just really don't think. I think the only people who are saying it needs to be easier or more accessible probably really haven't given the games a try, because I think if you've tried those games, honestly, you'd come to the conclusion that they don't really need additional balancing or accessibility. Like, they are designed to do the thing that they do, and they do it incredibly well. And dying is part of that.
Yeah. So, I agree, because I know we've talked about this before. There's some comments here which are kind of mixed, as you would expect. So like Walt, for instance, says, the sense of accomplishment you get for surpassing encounters in From Software release is unparalleled for me compared to any other game experience. And I generally agree. We have others that say, like Fat Boy, for instance, kind of what you were alluding to there, Travis. He says, I get a sense of disappointment as I think again, like I have to do this again. And I and I think that I've said before that I think these games they're almost like games of the 8 and 16-bit era, but in today's market, where you have to learn the patterns, you have to repeat things until you get good enough to progress. But I think they're even more forgiving, really, because they give you more tools at your disposal. Like you said, you can technically grind experience and over level if you want to. You can find equipment that you don't lose. You can
play multiplayer.
You can call in for help and summon, and there's plenty of ways to overcome these challenges. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said it's a mindset. The first thing I tell people when they want to get into these games, I was having this conversation with Mo recently, is the first thing I say is dying is not bad. Get that out of your head, because I think modern games have kind of instituted this mindset of when you die, you suck or you did something wrong, because you never die in games anymore. And you can save every 4 feet. You know what I mean? And I think that you've got to get over that. You got to think dying is it's part of the experience. And it means you're doing the right thing, because you did something that you're now going to know, crap, I shouldn't have done it that way. And you're going to be better prepared the next time you go. So, Dan, I want to ask you on this, because I know we've talked about this at length as well. We've kind of joked about these games, and I think, don't let me speak for you, but I think you're one of the type where it's like kind of like a Fat Boy said, where it's like you die, and you may die a couple times. It's like, look, I don't want to keep doing this.
So here's the thing. It's not, I said it before, and hot take again. These are all basically the same games to me. They're all, hard difficulty, precise combat. Estus Flask, Campfire. You can sit there and you can make a list of stuff that all these games have in common with a different setting. So I stand by that. However, Jedi Fallen Order, right, was as close as to a Souls-like experience I think that I'll ever come, because I thought that was on normal difficulty the right amount of challenge for me. Like, you can set, your difficulty, and basically what it does is just gives you more of a time frame. It increases the parrying time, right? Like, okay, I've got a more of a window here to block this lightsaber or block, whatever, so right at the normal difficulty, it was challenging for me, but I understand the rewarding part, because but once you get, I think, past, I tried the level above that, and it was just, I was just like, man, this is just frustrating. Like, I don't have time to, I guess, sit there and die 15,000 times so I can learn, I get no, and I also get no sense of accomplishment because I'm not very competitive. I don't have that. And I think a lot of people are. And I think a lot of people want to experience these games and their stories, like myself, and want to see what it's about. I think you could do it. He chose not to, and that's his prerogative, and I have no problem with it. That's what he wants to make. He's the creator, right? I mean, that's no problem with it. I don't, I think in this era of, trying to be a lot of games, trying to be more accessible, he's going kind of a different direction. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It makes it very unique, that genre, that subgenre anyway, that is, for certain people that like that challenge, it's like racing games, man. I mean, some people love them, some people don't. If you don't like them, don't play them. I mean, I would love to, but I just don't care enough to, I mean, I tried Souls and Souls games, Dark Souls 1 and 3, and tried Bloodborne. That was just a mess.
Yeah, agreed.
And that one, I was like, why? I kept shutting it off because I was like, why I keep dying right in this beginning part? Well, I figure out you have to die to actually keep going. So, like, I didn't even make it past the graveyard.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah.
I just think it's. I'm not saying that dying isn't frustrating in some games. Like, it kind of just depends on how a game is built, because in roguelikes, dying is essential, and everyone kind of just knows that. Like, everybody knows you're going to die in Deathloop, and everyone knows you're going to die in, Skull the Hero Slayer, and these sorts of roguelikes where it's designed. But in Dark Souls, for some reason, it's grouped into this group of games where dying is bad. There are some games where dying's bad, where, like, you lose 30 minutes of progress. Persona 5, that's a game I never want to die in. Like, there's no good parts to it. You just have to regrind the same fights, and you lose like 30 minutes of your time, and there's like hard saves. But Dark Souls is designed around the idea that you're going to die a lot, so they make all the right moves. They're like, all right, checkpoints are going to be like super nearby. You're never going to lose any of your items. Like, all the stuff is sort of set up so that dying is like more of a controlled kind of experience as possible. And so it's not really a matter of like get good or don't die ever or anything like that. It's just, you kind of have to realize that these games are designed in a very specific way. And if it's your first time playing through, you're going to die a lot, and that's fine. It's not a negative part of it. And to your point about the story, Dan, I find it weird that people want to just like play Dark Souls just for the story and have like an easy mode or a mode where they can't die or whatever. I don't think the Souls stories are particularly good if you're just getting the parts, like the cutscenes. Like, if you just see the cutscenes straight up, you get nothing from the game. Really, to me, the Souls game story is the experience. It is you fighting a boss 15 times and then eventually beating it. That's kind of the story of the games. And so if you just fought each boss once and got to the end of the game and you saw the cutscenes, I don't think you would get anything from it. I really think that that's like not the strength of the game. So I find it weird that there's people who want to see the end and think that that's going to be satisfying for them. I mean, even the games that have the most story, like Sekiro, it's very minimal. Like, if you just watch the cutscenes, there's basically nothing.
That's what I've heard mostly, from Souls players. The story really is more, lore based and stuff that you can find throughout the game. Character based. Okay. Well, and it's really not that's really not the reason these games are made. It's not like, and that's fine, you know, and I totally understand that. I think it can be done, and I think Jedi Fallen Order proves that it, you know, those options can be included. Whether or not he chooses to do it, obviously he doesn't. But with this game, with Elden Ring, I think for me anyway, I love Game of Thrones. I love what, you know, George R. R. Martin did. So I mean, that from a story aspect, I'm thinking maybe this will have more content, or, you know, or more of a fleshed out story, more of a, you know, this is why I want to do this. This is what's happening in this world. I don't know that for sure, you know, and like I said, I can't comment on Dark Souls games because I haven't played them really. I mean, I've only played very minimal amounts. You know, I can just base it off of what other people have said about the story. But that's some people play it for different reasons, though. You know, games in general. You know, I mean, I play Horizon for, you know, a little bit of both, you know, and I want a good story, like God of War. You know, it's a very, very good story. I really like the, you know, the father-son relationship and how they did it, and the gameplay was just kind of, you know, additional to that, you know, to me, you know. So it's I think it's just all on the person. I really do. And I used to play games, you know, beat Ninja Gaiden back in, you know, the NES days, you know, and that stuff was hard. But that was, you know, I was also way younger, and, you know, I didn't have shaky hands, and, you know, I could see without having to squint and, you know, do all this other stuff. So, you know, that's another thing for me. It's just, I'm just getting older. You know, I don't have the physical capabilities, you know, to do what I used to do in games. You know, that's again another reason why I don't play multiplayer. My reflexes aren't nearly as good as they were 10 or 15 years ago, where I could, you know, snap to a, you know, see that sniper. You know, I when PUBG came out, there's a good example. I played one game on Xbox, right? My first game, and my son was sitting there watching with me, and I'm on like a 65-inch screen TV, you know, and we're sitting there playing it, and I'm down to 3 people, and he's like, I'm like, where are these other 2 guys? You know, the circle's getting smaller. He's like, oh, he's right there. I'm like, what the hell are you looking at? I'm over there like, what? This little tiny dude way out in the distance. I don't know how he saw him, like in a tree. Or, you know, I'm just like, what? How did you see that guy? There is no way. I would have been annihilated. Actually, ended up winning. You know, got my chicken dinner. Never played another game except with Ames a couple times, and that was it.
Which was hilarious.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just physically I'm losing that capability. Mentally, I don't care about, you know, the challenge, because that's never been one of those things that have, you know, pushed me into the hobby, I guess. It's more of just experience the story. And like I said, I'm not really not missing much, apparently, you know, with the Souls-like games. So
Yeah,
I'm fine with what he wants to do. You know, do what you're going to do. You know, I appreciate that there are these genres and games that people do enjoy and that really, really enjoy them. Is there a little bit of FOMO? Yeah. But, you know, I can't play everything. So, you know, only so much, you know, time in a day. So
I was going to say, I think there's a couple differences there. There's a couple things I want to comment there, and there's some comments I want to get to too.
Sure.
In fact, Joe had a fantastic comment here, which I think is really on point, which is they're lore rich, not narrative focused. And I think that's a really good comment. You mentioned like God of War, Dan, and as you play through God of War and you get the experience with Kratos and his maturation, and then his experience with Atreus and the relationship with his son and all that, that's all narrative driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, qualms aside, when you think about the PlayStation first party games, they're narrative driven. That's what they've become known for, and that's, some people love it, some people don't. Doesn't matter, but that's what they are. Whereas lore rich is a good way to say it, because these are games just like the gameplay itself, almost, where they are a bit cryptic. And they don't hand you everything, and you don't get the 5-minute cutscene where it's like a movie. It's pretty much the most opposite thing of Kojima you can think of. Where there's tons and tons in the game. There's tons of backstories to the characters. There's just an incredible amount of lore, as Joe alluded to. But you, the player, have to seek that out.
Maybe you can do both, right? And Prey, I think, proved that more than anything else. You know, that was a very good narrative-driven game with a ton of lore if you actually took your time.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Prey.
Oh yeah,
Prey.
Yeah,
yeah, you definitely can do both, but I think Dark Souls intentionally doesn't do both, because the narrative is sort of, I think it distracts from the experience of, like, you know, immersing yourself in the world and stuff.
Based on what I said, based on Martin doing the story and helping with the story, do you guys think that this will have more of a narrative than previous Dark Souls?
It sounds like he helped with the world building, not the
Okay.
story. So I think
Exactly.
it's going to be the exact same thing.
Okay.
He actually, in an interview with him, he talked about how he created elements of the world and the characters, but that's it. And his involvement apparently ended like 5 years ago.
Then
it makes sense.
Yeah,
so it was just like kind of a big name drop, and he did some stuff for the.
He helped with world building, though. I mean, George R. R. Martin is probably a better world builder than he is a storyteller.
That's probably true.
Being real. Yeah.
So I want to come back to one other point that we're going to talk about, which is kind of the capability and the ease of access of help, co-op, multiplayer, etc. But before I do that, so the interesting thing here, two points. One is that Paul was talking about accessibility. And I think that oftentimes difficulty and accessibility are kind of merged together when they shouldn't be. They're two different topics. And so let's be clear that we're talking about difficulty, not accessibility. Accessibility, especially as I know Paul's referring to it, is the capability for people in general just to be able to play the game. And I don't think any of us, I can say openly, I'm not playing Elden Ring yet. I did play the tech test. I don't know what the final game will have in terms of accessibility options. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if From's going to do a good job there or not. It's obviously becoming more and more standardized across AAA studios to really make games accessible. I don't know where that stands. I don't know if either of you guys have any insight. I don't, but I don't know what that looks like in this game.
I don't as well.
Sure. The other thing I find interesting, and Fatboy said it somewhere, I can't really find it. Oh, he said he's the guy who beat Ghouls and Ghosts, and I know Ghouls and Ghosts is always one of those 16-bit era games that is considered, pinnacles of difficulty, and it was an incredibly difficult game. I have beat it as well, just because I've loved those games in the past. But he said I think these games are bullshit, for lack of a better phrase.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, because I think those games are poorly designed in terms of the death mechanics, because there's no positive to doing it except for you just lose time and progress.
He said he beat Ghouls and Ghosts, but he thinks these games are bullshit. Souls games.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I think
I agree. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, there's some, like, I read that comment and my first thought was like, okay, so you like games that have like really shitty death mechanics where when you die, you have to start all over again and you lose everything, but you don't like a game that lets you keep most of your progress and like is way more accessible in terms of difficulty. Like it's crazy to me. I just think it matters. It depends on the game. Like I said, some games dying is just a net negative. It's terrible. You gain nothing from doing it. You just lose time. And some games, dying is just a part of the game, and you just have to sort of figure that and go into it. And I think we've all played games and know the difference between those two. Like we've all died and just been like, oh God, I want to turn this game off. I lost so much. But I don't think that's the problem here.
Yeah,
but accessibility is a separate discussion.
Accessibility. Here's the thing,
difficulty, as long as you can play the game on the platform, it has options for accessibility. Then the difficulty doesn't really matter. You can get good no matter what your input is, right? As long as you have an input that works for you in that game. So,
have you guys really dived into some of these accessibility options though? Because a lot of them, by default, if you have them off, if you turn them on, make the game easier to play. All right. If you turn on auto aiming, all right. So accessibility and difficulty actually go hand in hand more than you guys. I understand what you're saying and that they're different, but by having that accessibility, you are at times, depending on the game and the accessibility feature, making the game easier.
That's true.
So I don't think that they're that far apart. I think that like I said, I don't care necessarily that I actually, like I said, I do appreciate what he's doing, and I think that is gonna resonate with his fans, and I think this is gonna be a lot of people's game of the year this year. And that's awesome. So I don't know, man. I think this is, I'm hoping for you guys that Elden Ring is like, we put in all this time to all these, I've done all these other games. This is what I was going for this entire time. You know, like this is the cake with all,
Culmination.
all the ingredients. Yeah, this is it.
Dan, I think you're right that accessibility and difficulty sometimes have correlation, but I don't think it's true for the Soul series because there is no aiming. Yeah,
well,
like
right. Yeah,
for Soul
a game
series,
like that, but...
all ranged weapons are auto aim, and melee weapons you never have to aim. It's really more about like timing and that sort of thing. And
right,
I think
but then again,
overcoming
like,
input and
sure.
time delays and that sort of thing, I think is the big barrier. But I see that as sort of separate from just the difficulty of the game.
I understand that, but I mean, you go back to Jedi Fallen Order, you can have an accessibility option that makes, you know, gives you that bigger window of to parry, to dodge, to do whatever, you know,
Sure.
and that could be underneath an accessibility option. By definition, it makes it easier, you know. So I mean, I'm not saying they should have it. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm just saying that I think you can do both, and it's fine. I mean, like I said, you know, I really, it'd be awesome if more people could play these games, you know, and from both perspectives, from a difficulty level, from an accessibility level, you know, and I think that's been a big push in the industry, especially within the last 5 years, and it's been awesome to see. It's been really cool, you know, for awards to, you know, be given for the, you know, different accessibility options. You know, it's where we need to go, but at the same time, I also understand where Souls players, you know, are coming from. Totally. I mean, I totally get it. I'm just not a competitive person, I guess, is what it comes down to for me. So
yeah, I think what you're alluding to is overlap, right? There can be overlap between accessibility and difficulty. I think fundamentally people kind of merge those things together in conversation when they can be two different topics. So yeah, interesting. Z Black, good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. By the way, Cerebral Paul in the chat actually helps consults with Xbox on accessibility.
Nice.
So yeah, very cool. And Horizon 5, Forza Horizon is a perfect example of the types of accessibility that, you know, are really broadening out in today's games, which is fantastic. So the other topic I wanted to come back to is which kind of aligns with this is, so Dan, again, this is not a game you're buying or that you expect to play through, but let's say that Travis and I are playing and we say, okay, join us, jump in with us, and you can play through the entire game with us. Does that interest someone like yourself to do that?
No, not because I don't like you guys, but
that's part of it.
That's part of it. No, it's only because I've never, like, unless the game is intentionally co-op, say like, you know, It Takes Two or whatever it is, you know, if it's something like that, fine. I mean, you have no choice, you know. But for a game like this, or like Halo, for, you know, the Halo campaign, you know, I don't want to. I want to enjoy it by myself. I want to, you know, I don't want. It's almost. I mean, I don't want to say it. It's almost like an accessibility option where it's like I shouldn't need somebody else to actually get through this stuff, you know. And it all depends on the payoff, I guess, too. I mean, if I'm just playing through it and I'm just like, you know, I'm not going to get that enjoyment out of it, I guess. Some people might, and a lot of people much probably rather prefer that kind of thing. But if I can't do it by myself, you know, I don't need, you know, I don't know. I feel like an idiot, you know, that I can just like, okay, I'm just going to let it go because I don't want to, you know, I don't need somebody else. If I need somebody else, then, you know, I'm not going to play the game. That's basically what I think.
It's okay to need a friend, Dan. Okay.
You can admit it. We're all here for you. We're all here for you. By the way, this is my permanent pose from now on, apparently.
Nice.
I'm still in the show. I can still hear you guys, talk to you guys, see everything live, and yet for some reason my camera has completely frozen. So I don't quite know how to fix the situation because I don't want to screw up the live feed. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Well, Paul says, you know, I don't mind piggybacking. Had to do it for Parts of Dying Light, and that's cool. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's an excellent option for certain people. I don't know, man. It's like if I were to go through like Halo and finish it and then come back and do it with somebody else, that would probably be something that I would be more apt to do. But doing it right off the bat with somebody else, it sounds weird, but it almost cheapens it a little bit.
So you're saying you're not good enough to play alone,
no,
but too proud to play in multiplayer.
Yes.
Wow,
exactly
that's a golden section of never
very
going to be able to
small.
beat certain games.
Small
Yeah,
percentage of the population. Yeah, so it's all right.
Yeah, I
frozen again, man. That's really
I don't know
weird.
what
You
to do.
restarted it and you're
I
still
gotta
in
be honest with
something.
you. I don't know what to do. I think the only way I could fix this is to quite literally leave the stream and come back. But as I'm the host, I don't know what that would do to the whole stream.
That's
So
great. Yeah.
I
Can you
think,
make somebody else the host?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think so.
Well,
Yeah. So
click
guys,
on the having issues button. That seems to exist.
I mean, you could have picked so many different poses though to actually be frozen in. That
this
one's
one's not that bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks like you're pondering the question.
You could have been like this or something like
Yeah.
Yeah, your eyes closed and you're talking.
Very pensive. I'm just gonna think the rest of the episode. So apologies, guys, who joined us live. I don't know what's going on. I've never had this happen before. If you're listening to us, obviously after the fact, this doesn't matter. So I think what we'll do is we'll just continue and hopefully at some point it resolves.
€5 super chat.
The
£5 super chat.
Yeah,
staring contest is getting out of hand.
I got it.
You're good, man. You got game.
I'm gonna double down to 10 pounds. It says that no one can beat me in the staring contest at this point.
Wow, it's impressive.
So, yeah,
I would have lost anyway.
They can just lie about the fact that they're not blinking. We can't see them, so no verification.
Yeah, this is bizarre, but anyway. So I want to hear from you guys. Either leave a comment if you're listening to this later, or chat right now around that. Is if you don't normally play the Souls games and aren't one who would pick up Elden Ring and play through it yourself, generally speaking, are you interested in this game at the more kind of open co-op aspects of it? And do you plan on kind of taking advantage of that with people you play with or your friends to play through this game and experience it? Because I'm really curious about that. And I think Miyazaki obviously mentioned that for a reason when he said that we hope that, you know, the capability to kind of bring friends in and play with other people makes this a higher clear rate. So obviously they're thinking that that's going to have an impact on it. But I'm curious to see what people think about that. And I'll sit here and think about it while we're talking.
You know what though? I mean, if you had another person that was at like the same skill level as you, and you guys went into it, and that actually, you know, that might be all right. You know, where I'm like, listen, you suck, I suck. You know, let's try this together and see if we can both maybe not suck as much. You know, and that would be all right. But if you bring in like, you know, the ringer, you know, your closer, and you know, it's just like, well, I'm just sitting here, I'm just watching you play, you know, and you're doing all the hard stuff. I mean. And there's no story, or you know, it's all lore based or whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to be sitting there, and it's just going to be boring at that point. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Now, I don't know how their matchmaking is going to work. You know, I mean, no idea. But
yeah, it's been rough in other games.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to bring this back up because I realized we were kind of laughing about my stare in the super chat, and I didn't give him proper credit. So, Wandering Dutch, thank you, sir. Yeah. Host of the Midweek Mix-Up podcast and the crew over there. So, thank you for the super chat, brother. Appreciate it. Sorry, we were laughing so much at this ridiculous pose, I kind of glossed over the super chat, and I didn't mean to. So, thank you. All right. Well, guys, we are just over 3 weeks away officially from Elden Ring. I don't know what the embargo date is. I think the last thing I wanted to ask you guys is we know that Sekiro won Game of the Year at the Game Awards in 2019. Sekiro, if you're familiar with it from the From Games, is a more focused experience. And what I mean by that is you're a set character. There's no character creator. It's a set story. It's kind of it's a very From game, but it's slightly different from the other From games. And so I guess the question I want to ask you guys is, knowing how popular this is trending, the conversation we just had, knowing that it's still going to be very difficult, but slightly more capable in terms of the co-op options, do you think this is the game for From that truly transcends their image of only being for people who like difficult games?
I think so. I think I already said I think it could be Game of the Year for several people. I think it will. Unless it comes out and it just sucks and it is buggier than hell. I mean, and people are just like, what is this? Or it's super easy. And Souls-like players are like, what am I playing?
I can tell you neither of those things are true.
Okay,
yeah,
well then it'll be fine. I think it will break through. I think there's enough of a fandom for these games that it will 100% be nominated next year for Game of the Year in the Game Awards, at least. But I think it'll also be on several people's individual lists.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll transcend it.
Okay.
I kind of think no, I guess is my answer. I think it's going to be a great game, and I think lots of people are going to like it, probably more than ever have, because these games clearly have a growing audience. But I think that if there was some sort of barrier that Souls was trying to break through to get into the mainstream, they must have already done it by now, because Sekiro won Game of the Year, as we talked about earlier. It won Game of the Year, and all of the other Souls games have had increasingly larger audiences, but they still have that reputation for being for hardcore people that like these extreme games. And I honestly think that reputation probably plays to their strength a little bit, or plays to their advantage rather, just having that reputation. So I don't think so. I think more people will play it than ever. It'll be hugely popular, and it'll still have the same sort of stigma, reputation. Not always a stigma, sometimes an advantage. In my case, definitely an advantage. But yeah, I think it'll continue to have that, and regardless of how popular it gets.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I do think that. I think that stigma is going to stay. I'm kind of mixed between you guys. I think the stigma is going to stay, but I think what we've seen over the past few years is that the From games, and I know Sekiro helped with this, Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne are revisited endlessly. I think that they've just grown and grown in popularity. And I think that this game has so much hype behind it. There's so many people who have just recently discovered the Souls games that are looking forward to this, joining the experience at a launch. You know what I mean? Like, they might have played Dark Souls 3 last year for the first time, but that was 5 years after launch, and they didn't get to experience it with the community when it released, which is a whole different thing for Souls games. I feel that this is going to be that one that kind of breaks those barriers a little bit, at least. I don't think it's going to reach kind of mass appeal like we would think, some normal AAA IP, but I do think that this is going to transcend those borders more than any From game before, is what I would say. So yeah, we'll see.
I think to a certain extent, every next Souls game has done that. Like, it always gets bigger and bigger than we think it's going to get. And I expect this to go into the same direction. I don't think it's ever going backwards, except for maybe with Demon Souls. That game is kind of obtuse.
It is.
But I don't think they're ever going back. I think it's just going to keep growing. And clearly, if the internet metrics, the Google SEO is anything to go by, this game has mad hype.
Yes.
But I still think that there's just too much like media around how hard and difficult and like crazy those games are. So I don't know if that'll ever go away. And I don't know if it would be in their best interest if it did, to be honest.
Yeah. Perfectly fair. That's true, because to some degree, and obviously this is not really measurable, but to some degree that stigma helps the game, right? Yeah. Because there's a subset of audience that comes to those games for that reason, as we said. So yeah, guys. So if you're just joining us, I see some, more people signing on to watch. Sorry about the camera. It froze. So guys, what I did, I unplugged the camera and tried to reboot the camera itself. And now if I try to start the camera, it literally removes me from the show. So yeah, so I don't have an option at this point. I'm going to have to finish the show like this, which is kind of weird because I keep looking at the camera every time I speak out of habit. It is what it is. So sorry about that. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go ahead.
You're looking better than you ever have on this show, man. So.
Yeah, that's my glamour shot right there. Yeah, get that up. So let's jump over to some other topics. We joked about Star Wars earlier. We got the announcement and some clarification, I would say, earlier this week from EA and Respawn around the Star Wars titles that are coming. So they basically confirmed 3 new Star Wars titles. I know we knew about a couple of these previously, but basically the news is that Lucasfilm Games is back. We announced that, they kind of announced their return last year. And EA are working on 3 Star Wars games. Vince Zampella of Respawn is overseeing the development of all 3. So he's kind of this overarching curator of their relationship with Star Wars games. Travis already got me distracted. Stig Asmussen is the director on Jedi Fallen Order 2. He did direct the first one. It's a very celebrated game, as Dan was talking about earlier. So I personally really enjoyed that game. I did have some qualms with it. And when people say it's a Souls Star Wars games, it takes elements from it, but I don't know if that's I don't think it's generally a one-to-one comparison there. But regardless,
I wouldn't call it that, but it's a
No.
damn good adventure game.
it is a good adventure game. Let's please redo the map for part 2. Okay.
Oh my
thank
god.
You.
What's wrong
so
with the map?
Oh, it's terrible.
That's like the worst map in any game ever created.
What
that
map?
might be true.
It's
Oh, I get what you're saying.
It was like a hologram
world
A
map.
hologram map. I
Yeah.
thought you were saying the
No.
level design. I was like,
No, no.
whoa, I
No, no.
love the level design.
Well, level design's questionable too, as parts.
Really?
But anyway,
Come
anyway.
on. Oh, that's good. It's got
so-
shortcuts and opens up. It's super cool.
It does those things well. It does. So Jedi Fallen Order 2 is coming. Peter Hirschman is directing a Star Wars first-person shooter, and this is the one that interests me the most personally. His previous work includes Battlefront 2, the 2005 Battlefront 2, and he was also responsible for The Force Unleashed, which I admittedly have not played, but I've always heard very good things about. Yes.
Wow, he didn't play The Force Unleashed, no longer canon.
And then I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. Greg Fowerch,
Sure.
who is the head of new studio Bit Reactor, is working on a Star Wars strategy title. Now, they didn't clarify whether or not this is like a XCOM type thing or like a full-on like RTS. I don't know, but still interesting, right? So you're kind of getting this ARPG, or however you want to describe Jedi Fallen Order. You're getting a first-person shooter, and you're getting a strategy title. And let's keep in mind that they've said that EA is not the only one making Star Wars games too. So like we know Ubisoft, for instance, is working on a Star Wars game as well. So
and the Detroit Become Human people,
Quantic Dream, yes, are doing their Star Wars title as well.
Star Wars High Republic.
Yes. So basically what I want to ask you guys about these titles. I mean, we knew Jedi Fallen Order 2 was coming. So I think that's good news.
Apparently it's this year though.
That's
what they're saying.
Did not hear that.
Yeah. Which I kind of don't believe, but we'll see.
No.
Yes. Yeah. I don't believe that either. But what would you guys like to see out of this? When we talk about a first-person shooter and we talk about a Star Wars strategy title, if you could kind of think about, you guys are bigger Star Wars guys than me, the background of that stuff a lot more than me. What would you like to see out of these? Like, what would really kind of interest you that we haven't seen before?
I mean, I can care less about the FPS, I guess.
Really?
That one doesn't interest me.
Could be
as
good
much.
though.
It could be. I mean, I did like, like was it Dark? Gosh, was the old games? Dark Forces? Is that what it was?
So good
Back in the day. Yeah, they were so good.
So good.
I mean, I think they can do something like that. That would be pretty cool. I wasn't a humongous Battlefront fan. They were all right though. I mean, they were
pretty good.
Yeah, they were what they were. Yeah, and I enjoyed them. The strategy game, on the other hand, if I could get some kind of like homeworld Star Wars game where I could do, where you built your fleet, say like your Rebel fleet, or like out of, and you had to go something to that effect with some kind of story behind it. That would be cool to me. Or you guys said XCOM game. I mean, there's plenty of those. I think.
I mean, that would be fantastic though in Star Wars if you could customize your squad.
Yeah, that would be super cool. I think they could do a lot of things with it. I'd rather see that like an RTS, because Age of Empire, the Star Wars version. Those were some of my favorite games. God, what the hell were they called? Battle something.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were like Star Wars Age of Empire games.
Yeah,
I don't remember. Actually.
Yeah, they were super fun. That would be cool too. Less the XCOM way, only because I think there's a lot of games out there right now that have that formula. And there's XCOM, which does it the best anyway.
Force Commander, Galactic Battleground.
Yeah, Battlegrounds. That's
Battleground. That's it.
Yep, yep. I still have those games on PC. I play them every once in a while. But as far as the FPS, I don't know what they're going to do. there's so much potential in that universe. You know, there's so much potential to do basically, you know, whatever you want now. What era they're going to do it in, you know, there's a lot of different things that go into it. So I'm excited for all these games. I'm sure I'll play all of them as a Star Wars fan, but I don't know, man. Jedi Fallen Order 2, if it comes this year, blowing me away. There's no way.
That'd be crazy.
There's no way.
It could though. They already built the engine. I assume it's going to run on the same engine. So
I guess they just need time to redo the map, and then it'll be good.
Yeah,
to
well, all they need to do is add, you know, new levels basically, and you know, maybe some new powers and stuff. If they wanted to do just sort of like a straight sequel without overhauling anything, I feel like once you make the first game and the first game is good, that's the hard part, right?
One thing I really want to see in these games, I loved in Knights of the Old Republic specifically, is like I really want them to go deeper. This sounds stupid, I know, but go deeper with lightsaber customization. Like really allow you to personalize how you build those things and put some like either stats or some like leveling or RPG mechanics, you know, specifically behind your weaponry like that.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Well, I don't think you're going to get that from any of these 3 games.
Yeah, I hope really Jedi Fallen Order goes a little deeper because all they did was like colors, right? You had your powers,
but that game's not really about stats and stuff. At least that's what I remember. I don't really remember focusing on stats.
That's why it's just okay.
How dare you? I love that game. I love that game a lot, and not just because it's Star Wars, although that is a part of it. Yeah, so I couldn't be more excited about Jedi Fallen Order 2. I didn't even think about the map thing, but yeah, that was kind of irritating. I think they were trying to go with like the hollow maps that they have in the Star Wars universe. They were just trying to copy that, and it didn't translate super well in a game. But I guess I'm just used to looking at hollow maps because I play so much Star Wars, it didn't even really bother me. The shooter, there's a lot of different possibilities. They could do something we've never seen before. They could be bringing back the 1313 canceled idea for the game. They could do something like Jedi Knight, you know, the Kyle Katarn games where you fought with a gun early on in the game, and then partway through you discovered your force powers, and then they give you a lightsaber. It's still kind of a first-person shooter, first-person game, but you have a lightsaber for part of it. And they could do, you know, something we're not expecting, like, you know, you playing a stormtrooper, or kind of like a new story-driven shooting game, kind of like the story mode in Battlefront 2 or something like that. We'll see. I just hope it's not, you know, another like large multiplayer game. If it's something like Battlefront or a multiplayer shooter, I'll be kind of disappointed. I kind of want them to just do something I haven't seen before, or you know, mix things up a little bit, which I think they will. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have announced it this way. They probably would have been like, yeah, we're doing another Battlefront game or something. So we'll see how that works. As for the strategy game, I have no idea what they're going to do. Star Wars is perfectly suited for an RTS because it's all about wars, and there's different factions that have different, you know, types of vehicles and races, species that fight for them and that sort of stuff. So it definitely could be well suited for that. But I also would love to see like an XCOM thing, just so that we can get a little bit more RPG with it. To your point, your point, Ains. I think that would be huge if they could do like lightsaber customization and stats and stuff on an XCOM like turn-based game. I think that would be dope. But we'll see if they do that. Also, a tactics game would be great in Star Wars if they could do like a turn-based tactics game. I don't know if that counts as a strategy game. I think people tend to mean more like RTSs or XCOM when they say strategy, but I think a tactics game would be fantastic in Star Wars. It'd be so good. So I would love to see something like that.
Yes, there's just a lot of opportunity there. I mean, it goes without saying Star Wars is one of the biggest IPs in the world, and there's so much depth there that, I mean, any genre, it can basically take any genre and make it really well. You just need solid development and design choices. So I hope that's what we get. And obviously, Cerebral Paul says, rumor says May 4th will be the big reveal, which obviously makes sense. Hopefully we get a lot more information at that point on these games, but it's exciting nonetheless. I mean, I think the complaint over the past decade, right, with EA having the Star Wars license has been that they've kind of floundered with it. And that was the general consensus. And now we're getting to the point where, one, it's not just EA having the license, so we get new games or other games, like we said, but also the fact that they're allowing Vince Zampella to oversee everything and kind of letting the good studios like Respawn handle the Star Wars games, I think is a good thing as well. So I think, in my opinion, you're probably going to see a golden age of Star Wars games in the next several years that, you know, for guys like you who really adore Star Wars, I think it's going to be a great era.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it, man.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
All right. Moving on. We're going to move over to Xbox real quick. We got some things. We got their fiscal results. And, you know, I just mentioned this stuff because we always kind of celebrate these companies doing well and you know, obviously bringing us the games that we love. So the fiscal results came out for Microsoft's calendar year, which is calendar year 2021. And as we kind of always reiterate, they made some money. You know, they did okay.
What?
Yeah, they did okay. So
They're sure.
their total gaming revenue was 16.3 billion. That is up 17.7% since last year. In calendar year to year, it's their best year ever. Content and services revenue was 12.6 billion, again up almost 9% year over year. Hardware revenue obviously up 63% just because of the series consoles. 3.7 billion. So just their best calendar year to date by quite a long shot, by almost more than 2 billion. And obviously this goes without saying, that's really before anything to do with Activision Blizzard. And that's not even accounting for their full fiscal year, if you will. It's separate. It's a calendar year. So just wanted to shout out that, you know, it's good. It means more games for us. Good stuff. But I wanted to transition on the Xbox side to a report that came out this week. Jeff Grubb and Jez Corden both reporting it, as well as some other kind of comments around it, that Xbox is working with Certain Affinity. So if you're not familiar with Certain Affinity, a really talented studio, ex-Bungie developers, have done a lot of work on Halo in the past and worked with Xbox on several things, that they are working with Xbox directly and have been for years now on developing a Monster Hunter style game that is set to release potentially next year in 2023, might get pushed to 2024, but a big kind of AAA Monster Hunter co-op multiplayer style game. And I only have one question. Is this going to be good? Because Monster Hunter is not. No, I won't say that on the show, but I know Monster Hunter.
Several times.
Just
I know, I say it all the
you've
time.
also said it at other shows, other episodes. You've said it a lot.
Luckily, I'm not on camera.
I mean, I kind of agree. Like, my problem with Monster Hunter is how grindy it is and how long the fights are, where you're just kind of like beating the same beast over and over again. I just, it seems like I should love the Monster Hunter games. They have everything that sounds awesome, and for some reason, every time I play them, I'm like, I don't know, it's just not clicking with me. So I get your trepidation there, but a Monster Hunter like game sounds great. Like I like everything about the idea. So if another studio were to try their hands at it, of course I'd play it. Even though the actual Monster Hunter games have never really clicked with me. I want to like those games. I certainly would give a chance to another Monster Hunter game, especially if it was made by a separate team and was sort of a fresh start. But hell yeah, that sounds dope. Like, bring it on.
Yeah. I'm just like you. I'm like, okay, the concept of Monster Hunter, to your point, is really strong. I really like the idea.
Friends?
Yeah, getting in a group and killing gigantic monsters and kind of having those RPG mechanics we seem to keep circling back to on this week's episode of leveling and unique weapons and abilities and all those things is great. I just think my issue with Monster Hunter, to your point, has always been it's very cumbersome and clunky to me. And that's what I really haven't enjoyed about that. So if they make this, and depends how you take this, but more of a Western style where it's character driven and has those RPG elements and has the kind of gameplay, but it's more fluid, if you will. I could be definitely into this one. Dan, you like Monster Hunter as it is, so what do you think on this?
I mean, all right, yeah. I mean, I feel like either we're running out of ideas or we're just reusing stuff at this point. I'm fine with another Monster Hunter style game because there's really not a whole lot of them out there. I know the combat's always been kind of the tipping point between fans and I think not fans. So I was fine with it only because I found a weapon that I could use and be effective with. But I also understand, it's not like you go grab a sword and you just go out and you just beat the crap out of these things. It just doesn't play that way for some reason. That's how it should be, but it doesn't. But you get something like the insect glaive or something like that. It's a little bit more versatile, makes you a little bit more mobile. It plays a little bit differently. It's more about combos and time stuff like that. So I mean, I'm not like super Monster Hunter fan guy, but I did enjoy my time with it, and building the armors and doing all that stuff was fun. I kind of got back into it a little bit. I say little, I mean very little. I re-downloaded it to see what it looked like in 60 FPS. That was a terrible mistake. I'm never going to do that again, because if you don't start from the beginning, it's one of those games that you don't play it constantly.
Yeah,
you just lose
it's a lot.
It's a lot to
Yeah.
kind of go back to right off the bat. And I was just like, oh my God, I got to start all the way over with a
Maybe
whole new
that's what it
character.
is too. It's also just a lot to learn. I feel like I'm
It's
so
a lot to
behind
learn.
on the franchise that when I played Monster Hunter World, I was just like, dude, I have no idea what's going on. Like it was a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. It's tough for sure.
Yeah. Someone, Sarko just joked, Monster Hunter Ordnance Edition, guns, bombs, arsenals, and more guns. And I was thinking to myself, there's nothing in the report out of anything I've seen that says it is just like Monster Hunter. Who knows? It could be a 4-player with guns, and who knows? You never know.
Or it could be something like Lost Planet. Like those games were kind of dope. At least when they were good, they were dope. Sometimes they weren't good, but when those games hit, they were awesome because it was kind of the same idea, with friends killing giant monsters. Those games are cool. You guys ever play any of those games?
Yeah. I actually have the collector's edition of 2. I think it is part 2.
What games?
I can't remember if 2 was good. I remember
Lost
2 being.
Planet.
To me, I think 1 was the best one. 3 was like a totally different type of game. It was like
What is it with the EA back then? It's like, or that was Capcom, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Capcom. They used to make weird games.
Well, yeah, and they you create a new IP, it does well, it's a good game. You kind of build upon it with 2, right? And then 3, it always felt like the third game in those series always just went out the door. Like they tried to go too far and just ruined it. And that seems to happen. Like Dead Space was the same thing. It's like 1 and 2 were brilliant, and 3 it's just like, okay.
I think it was because 2 was like such a multiplayer focused game that a lot of people were like, damn, I miss 1 because 1 was more of like a story-based game. So then in 3, they were like, oh, we're going to make it a story-based game. And they just picked the wrong direction. Like that game was not, I think I reviewed that game. That was like years ago. I think I read a review for that game, 3, and I did not like it.
Yeah. Cool Kill said he's listening and shoveling snow. Godspeed, my friend. I don't know where exactly you are, but there's a lot of snow out there.
I've never seen it snowing. I live in California. What?
That is weird.
Yeah, I know. I've seen snow. I've just never seen it falling. I've never seen snow fall from the sky. I'm just there afterwards. I'm like, look, there's snow.
I've only seen snow after it's landed, not in the process.
That's it. And I've traveled a lot, just to be clear. It's not like I've been outside. I go and I just miss it because it only snows for like a couple hours, and then it just sits there for the rest of the time, right? So I just never been there.
By the way, Steve makes a good point. Sarka, that's called Evolve, and no one liked it. Yeah. Remember when everyone thought the 4v1 genre was going to be the next big thing? Yeah, that didn't.
What's funny is I really thought that had a lot of potential, and I liked Evolved as is. I honestly think their problem was creating enough content to keep up with, because it was kind of like a game as a service game. I think they would have had to create so much content to keep up with it. There's no way they could have done it to keep people's attention. Yeah, I like the base game though. That was a cool idea.
Neat idea, yeah. But to your point, it got repetitive really quickly.
Yeah. As those games always do. I still don't understand how people played like Team Fortress 2 for as long as they did. To me,
and still are.
I know they're still playing it. Like I to me, those games, it's like they don't really add content to it. Once you've played one match, you've kind of played them all. But people really, I guess people could probably say the same thing about Halo, which you and I could play like 400 hours of that without blinking. So
hey, let's not bring Halo into this. But let's go ahead and bring Halo into this because that's our next topic anyway. Is that
that was on purpose? It was a segue.
The report also said that Certain Affinity actually has 2 teams, 2 projects. Obviously, this game we just talked about, but their other project is developing a unique mode new mode for Halo Infinite, working side by side with 343 as they have done for years now. So a lot of kind of snuck out about this. So this was in Windows Central report, and then other people commented, and I know some of the Halo kind of community, some of the guys who really dig into things started talking about this. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole this morning, and here's what I found is that the rumors are that this is a battle royale, and the new attrition mode in the game would kind of lend itself to people thinking that, because it actually has revives, first time in Halo. It has a ring that closes in and will kill you, just like battle royales. But from what I found this morning is that this is not a BR. In fact, one guy said it's more that it's a bigger big team battle, in that the teams are going to have forward operating bases, like things they can control and areas on a map. You'll be able to do things like hack sentinels and bring like PvE and PvP elements in together. That this is going to be integrated with Forge when Forge releases later this year, and that over time it will allow player created content to exist within the mode. And that it may even have its own progression system built into this. Basically, like this will be a standalone kind of huge thing in Halo Infinite, but all of your personal Spartan that you've built, all of your cosmetics, all the stuff that you have in there today will still come over. So it feels almost like, even though this is a BR, it feels almost like a Warzone to Call of Duty type thing, where they're building this separate kind of big platform experience, but it's still part of the Halo Infinite universe. So this is really interesting to me. Forge always brings a lot of content to Halo, and that will be what sustains the game in the long term, a big part of that. But if they're kind of building this gigantic new mode, which will be brand new to Halo, it's got all this kind of PvE and PvP elements. It ties in with Forge and all these other things. This could be really, really big and interesting. And Certain Affinity, what they've made in Halo and the stuff they work on is genuinely excellent. So I'm very interested to see what comes of this and when we actually hear about it in reality.
Yeah. To me, even if it's just bigger team battle, it seems like it's a gateway to a battle royale, regardless. I feel like that's like inevitability. I kind of felt that way about Warzone too. That was the Halo 5 Guardians mode, right? Warzone, the PvE, yes. PvP version.
Yeah. So I reference Warzone from Call of Duty, which is their battle royale, but obviously in Halo 5 you had the 12-on-12 Warzone mode as well, which is PvP, PvE. Yep.
Yeah, it's getting confusing with people reusing the same like terms, but I think like whatever they're building, I'm stoked for it. I'm sure I'll play it. I hope that they're not prioritizing whatever that mode is over stuff like Forge and co-op and the story and things that I think they desperately need to get out there before the fans go crazy. But I'm interested in a new mode. I'm wondering, like, especially with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, it seems like a Halo battle royale at this point is like a foregone conclusion. Like some team is going to make that, even if it's not 343, right? Because they have so many shooter studios now that want to work on stuff. I feel like it's coming regardless. But yeah, that's interesting. I haven't been keeping that close of an eye on the Halo news. I've been playing the events and doing my dailies and that sort of stuff, but that's about it. But I'm interested to see what's next for the sandbox, just as a guy who tries to play as much Halo as I possibly can fit into a day. So.
Yeah, and 343 has kind of alluded to, Infinite. Obviously, the name is representative of the content they're going for, that this is their platform, and that there's a whole bunch of things in the works. I have to wonder, to your point around, updating the next battle pass, the next season, Forge, campaign co-op, Infinite campaign expansions, that's why Certain Affinity is apparently developing this, right, with their team, is that 343 already has so much on their plate to work with for the core game. So that's what I hope anyway. But it would seem to make sense. And I wonder if they're gonna, one of the things that kind of the Halo community asks too is, when you have Forge, right, there's nothing stopping you from giving players the ability to create battle royales with just the tools, right? Giving them the options to say, okay, server selection, jump into this 60-player match, and it's going to be battle royale, every man for themselves. There's nothing stopping them from doing that as kind of a custom mode that is accessible to everyone, rather than saying like 343 playlist. That's a battle royale. So, yep, interesting. Dan, I know you don't really have a lot of input on this.
Nothing.
I saw him like doing something else. I think he took a bathroom break during all of this.
I just peed myself. That's all that happened.
Nice. The only thing I was going to ask you is there any interest in PvP/PvE modes in something like Halo?
Absolutely, because that's now you become Sea of Thieves. So no,
what's wrong with that? Sea of Thieves is fantastic.
No, don't pull his cord.
We're not going to start. Nope.
You don't like Sea of Thieves? I thought you did.
I have over 500 hours in Sea of Thieves.
It's a fantastic game.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
The community sucks.
It's not like the PvP.
One of the
how dare you?
Worst communities.
No, people destroying you on their boat is the best part of that game.
Yep. All right.
Wow. That's all I do in that game is I just grief other people. I just go and I kill them and I take their loot. Why would I work when I can just kill them and take it?
Dan loves you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan, I like the restraint you're showing right now. I do appreciate it.
I'm doing the best I can.
I'm gonna look for you and Sea of Thieves. I'm gonna wait till I see you log on.
You won't find me because that game
you.
was installed on my hard drive in perpetuity. I have like 4 games that are like that on both consoles that will never be deleted from my hard drive. That game was one of them until about 6 months ago, or whenever they released the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. Was really cool. I couldn't access any of it because every time you would go to just the second mission of it, you would basically get sunk or it was already activated, so you couldn't access it. I'm sure they patched it by now, but you still go over there probably and get grief by people who are spawn camping the story mission that I wanted to do. So I'm just
I played that. I didn't have any issues with it.
I did it for like, I don't know, I tried probably 10 times, and every time I did, it either didn't work or didn't activate, or I had people destroy me. And then there would be times where also I'd go down to do it and be like, oh, it's not activated. I come back up, my ship's gone. Or parts of it are floating in the water. I'm just like,
all right, well, if you ever do re-download Sea of Thieves, let me know when you log on so I can kill you.
No, won't happen. Will not happen.
It's a good game.
Yeah. Nope.
All right.
We're doing it.
Real quick, while we're on the topic of kind of this acquisition of Activision Blizzard and Xbox, Blizzard actually randomly announced a new IP this week, which for Blizzard is a rare event. And I thought there was no irony better than Blizzard themselves announcing a new IP while calling it the unannounced survival game. I'm like, how do you announce something that is titled unannounced? I don't know. Only Blizzard can do that. They figure it out. But a new IP from Blizzard is something to kind of perk up about because, when they do create new IPs like they have in the past, they're memorable IPs and they can be something that pushes the industry or creates something new. And, they're big things. So all we know about this is it is a survival game. Mike Ybarra, who now head Blizzard, said that he has played it with the team. So it's in some form of development to where it's playable. It doesn't mean it's near release, but it's playable. What?
I've cracked it.
Go.
The game is called Unannounced. So the unannounced survival game. I mean, that's what it's called. It's just called Unannounced. That's the title. There you go.
Wow.
So yeah, no, there's not much to say about this other than I just wanted to say that, this is kind of interesting timing that a week after announcing the potential acquisition by Xbox, they come out and announce a new IP. That they don't really provide any information about. And according to other reports, they have other new IPs in the works. This is just one of them that they're looking forward to announcing.
I have a theory about this. So I saw this news too, Ains, and my first thought was, I bet you they wanted to announce this game earlier, and they were just waiting for a moment where their company had any good PR to do it. Because you don't want to announce a new game on like a downslope for PR, and like Activision Blizzard has had so much negative PR. I feel like there probably just wasn't a good window to announce this game, and then they finally had like a week where people were talking positively about the company because of the new acquisition and stuff, and they were like, "All right, let's just talk about this game now." That's my theory.
It could be. I put on my tinfoil hat last week, going down the rabbit hole of the acquisition talk, and I was thinking to myself, obviously this has been in the works for some time, the acquisition, right? And if you are, if you are part of these teams that knows an acquisition is coming, but you're trying to buy low, as we alluded to last week, buy low, right? If you're Xbox, to your point, why would you want any good PR prior? They basically capitalized on the fact that Activision Blizzard had been suffering from bad PR as their stock value dropped over the last 8-10 months significantly, 35%, 40%. And Microsoft capitalized on that fact. So, why would you want any announcements of new IPs or new games or Overwatch 2 release date or anything good when you're just seeing that stock tank so that you can buy on the low, which, is what it is. But
yeah.
All right. So we'll see what this is. I'm looking forward to hearing more. We don't know, like we said last week, we don't know when this deal is going to close, if it's going to close, and what that looks like for Xbox and Blizzard and Activision in the future. But my hope, as with anything else, is that the deal closes as intended, and that, as we discussed extensively last week, that these developers and studios get the support, freedom that they need to really put these projects in a good place, because there's obviously a load of talent at these studios that has been seemingly underutilized for some time now. So, fellas, only one more thing to mention, and that is that Horizon Forbidden West has gone gold. And if you're listening to this, it's probably only about 2 weeks away.
People are already playing it.
They are.
Yeah. IGN person's playing it. It's not me.
It's sadly not me either. I'm not playing it, but I wish I was. I'm looking forward to it.
Somebody at your outlet playing it?
No, not yet. So,
yep. I'm excited, man. I'm literally playing the first one so I can get a refresh for the second one, because I don't know what's really coming out after that I'm going to play. So, Elden Ring, it's not me. So I gotta probably wait a long time. So that's going to be one of those games that maybe I'll try to plat it. And I was looking through the Horizon Zero Dawn trophies. They're really not that hard, but I totally skipped all of the hunting ground stuff, I think, the first time through.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. I mean, I played a little bit of it, like very, very little. So I was like, well, that's basically all I have left. So I can get those. That shouldn't be a problem. And then I started trying to do it, and I was like, nope, maybe not.
I think I was going to say I have the platinum in that, which is rare because I don't trophy hunt, but I really enjoy that game. Cool. And I think those trial things are probably the most tedious part of that game.
Yeah,
sure. I love those trials though; they're so much fun.
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah, I loved that game, but I think because I reviewed it, I was playing it like a month before it was out, and I'm not sure any trophies unlocked for me. I might have 0 in that game, but I did like a completionist run. I bet you if I had done it when the game was in the wild, I would have like a platinum on it. But
nice. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys, the one thing I wanted to ask about this, the reason I brought it up is when there's a game like this that is coming that I'm hugely excited for, both this and Elden Ring, I go dark on them. Like, there's so much coverage of these two games right now. There's new videos and gameplay and information and all these things. I have not watched any of it. Like, I refuse to even watch a trailer for Horizon or Elden Ring right now because I just want to experience it myself when I get it. Are you guys like that, or am I weird?
I try to be like that as much as possible. Unless I'm covering a game, I try to expose myself to nothing about it. And Horizon Forbidden West, I've seen nothing since the E3 reveal trailer in like 2018, which I think I was in the room for. And then for Elden Ring, not only did I not play the technical test, but I have seen 0 trailers. I just know the title of the game. That's it.
Wow.
I haven't even seen the non-gameplay cinematic trailers. I've seen nothing of that game on purpose. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. I think the thing with games like that, it depends on the game. Like this one, I've mostly gone dark on because I don't want any spoilers or anything. So once like it gets about a week out, right before the embargo lifts, I will mute those words and anything that has to do with the game. I'll go as far as to mute PlayStation and Sony, and I won't see anything, which is actually kind of nice because, I focus more on my Twitter feed is mostly meat. I think I tweeted out the other day. So that's great. Meat.
Yeah,
Mostly
you
just
did
meat.
say that. You did say that.
Mhm.
Following your
Yeah, so
Twitter is a harrowing experience.
it's
I do
yeah, it's
not
fun.
recommend it.
No, uh, it's fun. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of gone dark on it. I haven't really gone dark on Elden Ring, but I haven't really seen anything either, aside from everybody's excited for it. But I haven't seen any like trailers, extra kind of behind the scenes stuff. I haven't seen any of that stuff, and I'm not
Probably because you don't
trying to
interact
avoid it.
with it generally.
That might
Because
be true.
there's a lot. Like it's Game Informer's feature this month, so they've put out a bunch of videos and articles.
Oh, really?
It
I probably
is
have them blocked.
yeah, it was covered by PlayStation. Like I said, the interview with Miyazaki. Content creators already have the
I saw
game,
that.
so there's videos out there. Like, yeah, there's a lot. that
I
I'm
saw
up
the
to.
interview thing. I did see that. But I
Yeah.
think for Horizon they had like a cast interview thing. I just didn't watch it. And that was basically it that I've seen. And they promote it with who's that guy that makes those slow motion videos, that Sunhei Legend or something like that on Twitter, where he makes a lot of those, like he does a lot with Devil May Cry and Nier Automata, Ghost of Tsushima. He does these really kind of cool videos like montages, and that's who I think Gorilla hired they gave him the game early, and all those promos are made by him, or a lot of them are that I've seen. I think that's what's happening. So he's going through the game and playing it and capturing these, like, the really cool slide. I'm just gonna arrow this guy in the face kind of thing. Just does all these really cool moves. My game will look nothing like that. It'll be, probably running into stuff, have the camera backwards, and just hoping I don't die. And but that's kind of what they've been doing with it. That's as much as I've seen. So generally, I try to avoid as much stuff. It's just like movies, like Spider-Man. When that came out, I put a giant mute list together, and still got some stuff, kind of popping through here and there. But then I blocked those accounts, and so sorry guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hyped, man. We've been talking about these game releases for some time now, and it's crazy to think that they're almost here. We're only a couple weeks away, so we'll have some unique guests over the coming weeks to talk about Elden Ring and Horizon in particular, because I think those are going to be big topics for us, and I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time with them, both reviews and articles and conversations like on here. So stay tuned for those. But I
hope I'll have time to play it.
Yeah,
I really do. Both Elden Ring and Horizon Zero Dawn. I hope I have time to play it.
A lot of time. Yeah, I don't know how many hundreds of hours combined I'm going to put into those two games. So
with the Destiny 2 review.
Oh yeah, you got that too.
Man, you're screwed.
Well, with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap up for today. The only thing I want to shout out, if you're watching this live, is later today, boys, we get the Halo TV show trailer during the AFC
forgot about that. Reason to watch football. Hell yeah.
Yeah, halftime of the AFC Championship. So
right. Yeah, anyway,
I watch football for the commercials, Dan.
Yeah, I know you.
Commercial aficionado.
And the Halo,
You're those
the Halo
guys.
trailer.
How much did that cost? Yeah, no. Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Why did you give me a high-pitched voice?
Yeah,
is that what you think I sound like?
Yes.
Okay.
When you're watching football, I think that's what you sound like. But
okay,
I saw the teaser.
Go Niners.
Good. Hey, I'm good with that too. Go Niners, man.
Go Niners, go Chiefs.
Yeah, go Niners, go Chiefs.
I can
see that replay again.
Okay.
Oh man, I saw they dropped like a 10-second trailer or whatever it was. The little teaser.
Yeah,
looks awesome.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say this. Dope. Yeah, when you get Paramount Plus, when you inevitably have to watch the series, go watch Mayor of Kingston after Halo. Amazing show. Jeremy Renner. I'm not even a big Jeremy Renner fan, and it's brutal, man. It's a brutal, crazy show that I think you guys would enjoy. So, listeners, go watch that show. It's free promo, free press. Also, watch Halo, because that's the main reason you're going to be getting Paramount Plus, because there's nothing else on it except for those two shows.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped to see this. Chief looks amazing. The budget looks right. Like, it looks like it's going to be the big show we all hoped it would be. So we'll see that later today. And then just a shout out that we've got a new series premiering on the channel later this week. So it'll be a timed exclusive for all patrons. but it'll be coming to everyone shortly after they premiere. But stay tuned; it'll be definitely a series for techies and tech heads. Should be interesting for people. So keep an eye for that. Otherwise, whoa, we got a super chat right at the end from
Day
Chris
baby
and-
Super Bowl, Chris.
Oh no, Chris! I know Chris is a huge Bengals fan.
Right,
So-
I think there's like 4 of them total though, because I've never ever heard of a Bengals fan until Chris. So it's, it's
I'm a
small group.
Bengals fan. That's kind of
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, I mean that's
I
fair.
like
Oh,
bagels.
man.
Bagels.
Chris, thank you very much for the super chat, man,
Yeah,
and
man, thank you.
good luck to the team today. Unfortunately, I don't really care either way, but I hope it's a good game.
I think they can do it. I think they can do it.
So
We'll see what happens. Should be a good game.
All right, boys. Travis, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at TagGuyTravis. You can read my articles, previews, and reviews at IGN.com. This past couple weeks, I did a Windjammers 2 review. Highly recommend checking that game out if you haven't. It's on Game Pass. And then this next week, I'll be doing the Dying Light 2 review. I'm also previewing the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC Ragnarok, which will probably be up sometime, if not this week, then early next week. And then down the road, I've got my Crossfire X review and my Destiny 2 Witch Queen review. So tons of stuff I'm working on. You can see all that stuff. And if you care about Destiny, I do a show every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific called The Last Word, where we talk about Destiny for multiple hours a week. I don't know how we do that, but we do it. And that's it for me.
Are you allowed to say if you have Crossfire X yet?
I am not allowed to say that.
All right, because
Not on the live show.
it is extremely quiet on that
Yeah, it has
Crossfire X front right now. Which is
Totally forgot it was
interesting.
coming out.
Exactly. So, anyway, guys, chat, you've been awesome today. Bitcast 188. Thank you as always to anyone listening. Just a reminder, if you do enjoy listening to the podcast on the audio services, please hit us up with a review. It would be greatly appreciated. It does help us out. And that's about it. Stay tuned. We will see you next week. Until then.